Well, hello, viewers. When I was at seminary, I had a professor who was teaching me the Old Testament, and he was talking about a period in Old Testament history where God's people had really started to take God for granted. And in fact, they'd started to worship themselves and trust in their own law and their own education and in their own wealth and homes. And eventually, after multiple warnings, God's people were taken away into exile in Babylon. And in the midst of that catastrophe, confusion set in. How could God let this happen to us? How could a good God allow this to befall us? And where was God in all of this? Now, the situation that we're in is radically different from that in many ways. And yet in the same way, we're asking similar sorts of questions. Where is God in all of this? And what does this mean? And how can we carry on worshipping and doing church at a time like this? In the book of Psalms, Psalm 137, you read a psalm that's written by God's people as they're literally getting over the very first shock of their new situation. And they sing this: "By the waters of Babylon, there we sat down and wept. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a foreign land?" And they start to ask these questions. How can we do our regular, normal kind of worship when it's all been taken away? Very slowly, in this catastrophe, something creative starts to happen. God's people start to figure out new ways of doing old things. They start to figure out how they can worship God even though they've lost their temple and their sacrificial system and their priests and all of the things that they were used to relying on. And in the midst of this crazy catastrophe, they start to get creative in other ways. Hundreds of verses of scripture are written at this time of catastrophe. In fact, one scholar, a guy called Westermann, he counts in the opening 5 chapters of the book of Lamentations alone 75 metaphors and allegories for the work of God. It's an incredibly creative time for the people of God. And in that way, I guess that we're in a similar place. All over the internet right now, there are videos like this one of very tired-looking clergymen sitting in front of piles of dusty-looking books, trying to share an old message in a new and a creative way. What I want to encourage you to do in this time is to do what the Jews did in Babylon, is to ask, where is God in all of this? To ask if there's anything that we can do to change the ways that we worship. So look at the ways that you can get creative with your families, or if you're on your own, the way you can get creative with the people that you love from our church body, either through Facebook or Zoom calls, or just calling them directly if that works for you. And I really want to encourage you to engage with all of the materials that we have on our church website and in the app and on the podcast and on Facebook and on YouTube, and encourage you as well in some of the things that are going on there. I have discovered that our church has actually grown in recent weeks. It's unbelievable to see that the church has grown. I can hear a noise upstairs right now. That's my wife just rudely interrupting this very quiet video that I'm doing in a building that's been sealed off and fogged. Oh, here she comes. Hello, darling.
Hello.
Just doing a very quiet piece to camera for the whole church.
Hello, everybody.
I was 3 minutes and 47 seconds into and just finished. Actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah, thanks.
Good.
Danny.
Hello. Hi, everybody. Like his haircut. What are you talking about?
Well, I was talking about the creative catastrophe of the people of God in Babylon, and I just finished a complicated piece of theology.
I'm sure it's very complicated.
This message is drawn to a close. Thank you.